Good morning. We'll start up in just a couple minutes. Now, I want you guys who are watching right now to know there's only 5 students in here right now, and there's supposed to be more than double that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for about 5 minutes because typically what happens is if somebody has a problem joining the meeting, they send me an email, and then I've got to send them the information to join again. Can I just ask, can somebody answer? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I can.
great. Thank you. I'm
Yes.
I'm broadcasting from one of my bedrooms today because I have my granddaughter's here in the other room and she's kind of noisy. So I just want to make sure that the sound was still okay. Now we're up to 7. When we get to about 10 or 12, then I will start up. But I'm just going to let the feed keep going here. All right, it's 9:05, so I'm going to get started. And let me do a share on here. And let's see. Well, we'll try it from right here and we'll see if this works. All right. Can all of you see my program from yesterday on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. If you don't have that program up, please bring it up right now. I'll give you a second to do that. And please, after you bring it up, go to your maze one right here. Yours probably looks different. We'll fix that in just a minute. But go to your maze sprite, please. All right. Does everybody have up the program and you're on the maze sprite? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to get rid of the code that we've got in here. So just take it and drag it over there, both of them. You'll understand why in just a minute. All right. After you do that, and you're sure that there's nothing there, click on costumes, and then you should see all of the mazes in here. Now, is there anybody after you did that did not see the mazes? Because they all should be there now. All right. We should have done that first before we put the code in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and I want you to put that code back in. So I'll leave this here. And I'll give you just a couple minutes to put that back in again. And we talked about this yesterday, but the first when click that's up there says when the program begins, we want the first maze to show, and we want that maze to be positioned right in the middle of the screen. That's the go to X0, Y0. And whenever we finish a game, so whenever the monkey reaches the bananas, we are going to broadcast a next maze. And what that should do is that should it should reposition the monkey and it should start us again at the beginning of a new maze. Does that make sense to everybody?
Can you repeat it?
Sure. This one right here, these three lines of code, these three that I'm moving back and forth here, these say when the program begins, that's when clicked is. So when the program begins, we're telling it to make sure that we're starting at maze 1. Notice on here, I've got all the mazes. We don't have to start at maze 1, but it seems to make sense if you've got 8 of them and we're going to go in a row to start at maze 1. And we're telling it to position the maze here at 0, 0. That's what this is doing, this line right here. It's saying, make sure it's centered right on the screen. All right. Then this one that's right here, these two lines say, what's going to happen is whenever the monkey actually reaches the bananas, what's going to happen is it's going to send a broadcast message for next maze. And this next costume means if I'm in maze 1, get rid of that and bring up maze 2. If I'm in maze 2, get rid of it and bring up maze 3. And finally, when it gets to maze 8, the last one, and you reach next costume, it cycles back to the first one. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. The next thing I'd like you to do is to go over to your backdrop right here. Remember, that's way in the right-hand corner there, the bottom right. And click under backdrop, choose the first option that comes up there. It looks like a magnifying glass. Choose a backdrop. Now you can choose anything here, but there's 2 of them that I would recommend. Either the one that I chose, which is light, or blue sky 2. Because, for example, let's say I choose baseball. So I'm just going to choose that one. See how hard that is to see? All right, to me at least, that's pretty hard to see. So I'm going to go back again and go here. Blue sky isn't bad. You might like that better than the one I chose. All right, the one that I chose was light. All right, and there are other ones that you can use as well. You could even make your own if you wanted to. So hopefully you've chosen, if you don't want any backdrop at all, you don't have to choose one. All right. And I believe, I'm not even sure how you get rid of it after you've chosen one. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the light blue one. That might be a little easier for you all to see. All right. So am I right in assuming, I just like a yes from each one of you when I get done asking this, that everybody here now remove this code, went back over to costumes, saw that you had your mazes there, put the code back, and changed your backdrop. Is that true?
Yes.
Is there anybody who still has to do that? I can see we had some people join us a little late. So what we did was I told everybody, remove the code for the maze. Literally, just get rid of it. Take it and drag it over there and let go, and it'll be removed. I want no code there. Then after you've got no code there, if you click costumes, then you should see all of the mazes, all 8 of them. Now I have to go down a little bit so you can see all of them, but you can see now they're all there.
Can you explain that again? I just got on.
Sure. What I want people to do is I want you to bring up the program we were working on yesterday, the single maze program. Once you bring up the single maze program, I want you to go to the maze sprite that we added yesterday. If for some reason you didn't add that maze sprite yesterday, that's one of the things I had you copy over. If for some reason you don't have it, then go over to here to sprites and go to upload, and you're going to have to find where you put it, but you want the maze.sprite too, because that sprite holds all of these. All right, so you'll have to put that in. But once you've got it, then what I'd like you to do is to remove this code. To remove the code, you just take it, drag it over here, and let go. I don't want to get rid of it, so I'm not going to let it go. But I want all the code that's on here to be removed. Once all of that code is removed, and this is blank, click on your costumes tab, and then you should see all of the mazes over here.
Okay, where did you download the maze sprite?
I had you do it yesterday. I can put it back out there if you guys need it.
Can you put it back out there?
Is there anybody I can put it in the chat? Is there anybody who needs it?
I do.
Okay. Then I'll go to file and I'll find it right now. So let's see. There it is. And what I'm going to do, you should only need this one, but I'm going to give you all of them anyway. That should include all the rest, but I'm going to give you all of them. The maze 1 through the maze 8. So there'll be 9 total files. Sorry, the way this works, it only lets me put one file in there at a time. Otherwise, I would do all of them at once, but it doesn't let me do that. So now what you should see out on the chat are all of these files. All right, so there is maze.sprite2, maze1.ping, maze2.ping, all the way through maze8.ping. You should take each one of those files, you should choose where it says click to open, and then you should save it where you've been saving all of your other image files that we've been creating. So I'll give you a minute or two to do that. I'll tell you what, anyone who's still working on this and downloading it, when you get done, just let me know. Just say, I'm finished.
Finished.
Okay. Anybody else who's still downloading the stuff? All right. Then what you'll need to do is you'll need to go over to your sprites window here and go to upload sprite. So go to your sprites, the sprites area down here, go on the choose a sprite and go to the very top one, which says upload sprite, and you'll have to upload it from wherever you saved it. The only one you have to upload is maze.sprite2. You don't have to download all those ping files. You don't have to do that. Let me know when you've got that done, please.
Got it.
Okay, then you should have a maze sprite here. Okay, click on that maze sprite, and after you do, go over and immediately click on the costumes tab and let me know, can you see the mazes over here?
Yes.
Good. Then go back to the code tab and add this code. Add these 5 lines and let me know when you're there, and then you're all caught up.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So am I right now in assuming that everybody who's watching this is all caught up now, correct? Anybody
Yes.
who's
wait.
not caught up right now?
Did you add more code for the monkey and the banana?
Not yet. We're gonna do that right now. Actually, I've got this finished, but we're gonna walk through the whole thing again. Now, the other thing for the person who joined late, I said what you might want to do is go to backdrops and choose a backdrop and either choose blue sky or light. You can choose any one you want, but those are the ones that resonate the best with this. I chose blue sky, and you can see that. I think it's fairly easy to see like that.
Yes. Where are all
The backdrops?
Yeah.
Just go way over to the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, right next to where you add a sprite, there's adding a backdrop. So choose that.
I mean, you're the ones, the maze ones.
Maze ones. What happens is they're basically that Sprite 2 thing that we downloaded tells the system to include those files.
Where is the Sprite 2 thing?
Where is it? That was one of the ones I had you download yesterday.
I wasn't able to for some reason.
Okay, well, that's fine. But what I did this morning out in the chat was I put all the files out there. They're all there. There's the maze sprite 2, there's the maze 1.ping, maze 2.ping, all the way through maze 8.ping. So every one of them is out there. There is a total of like 9 files. Maze.
Let me try. I don't think that would work. I can't see them.
You can't see them on my screen? If you go to the chat window, they should be out there.
I can't go to the I can't see it in chat.
Is there anybody else who can't see those files in your chat window?
Sometimes if you send it before the person comes in, they don't see it.
I see. All right, then I'll just try. I'll add them all over again. That's not a problem. So give me a second. Problem is I can only add them one at a time. It doesn't let me add multiple ones, so I will add them again.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, not a problem. All right, can you see them now?
Can't seem to. No. All right, let me. No, that won't work.
Like I said, I just added them to the chat window. So if you can't, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to right now. Is there anyone else who can't see those files?
I can't see them either.
Because I sent it to everyone.
I can see it.
Because I sent it to everyone. I'll tell you what you can do then. All right. Anyone who, if there's anybody who's behind, anybody who's having problems, let me show you this. Let me make that go away. Bring in this. Can you see on the screen? This is for anybody who's having problems reading from the chat. Can you see on the screen where it says https://scratch.mat? Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for those of you who are having problems with this, all right, what I'd like you to do is open up a new window in your browser and just put this in. And when you open up a new window in your browser and you put that in, you should have a remix button. And if you click the remix button and then you save the project, you should have everything then. All right. You'll have the whole program done if you do that.
Will do.
So why don't you do that? Let me know if you have any problems doing that. And the rest of us will just wait for a second for you. Were you able to do the remix?
Still getting to it.
Okay. Now, again, the numbers keep increasing. So if you came in here late today, if you came in late, what we did was we brought up the project we were working on yesterday. If you put this in right here, this is the completed project right here. That's the one I've got up on my screen. I have shared it. So if you take this URL that's right here, and you put it into a new browser window, it's going to bring it up. Now you will have a remix button. I don't have it because it's on my account. But if you bring that in, you should get the remix button.
Yeah, I have it. I got it.
Okay, you got it? Good.
Thanks.
Now, anybody else, what I assumed was from yesterday that everyone was able to go and download that maze2.sprite file and the other maze files. And if people had problems, I put them out there in the chat. So they are out there. So there's maze.sprite2, maze1.ping, maze2.ping, maze3.ping, maze4.ping, maze5.ping, maze6.ping, maze7.ping, and maze8.ping. So there's 9 total files. All right. And then the next thing we did was I had everybody remove these 5 lines of code. We went to the maze sprite and we removed these 5 lines of code. All right. And then we went over and clicked costumes to make sure that we could see the mazes. So as I go through, you can see how the mazes are changing. All right. And then we went back to code and we put in these 5 lines of code. And as I mentioned to everyone, as far as what those lines of code are doing, this one says when you start the program, make sure that even if I'm on some other maze, that you go back to maze 1 and you position the maze right in the center of the screen by setting its coordinates to 0, 0, which is the origin, which is right about there. Then this one says in English, whenever the monkey has reached the bananas, whenever the monkey has reached the bananas, you're going to hear the cheer and you're going to get that hooray message. We're going to do that in just a minute, but broadcast a next maze message, which tells next costume, which says, if I'm in maze 1, bring up maze 2. If I'm in maze 2, bring up maze 3 all the way through. And if I'm in maze 8, go back again to maze 1. All right. So is everybody caught up? Does everybody have this code that you see on the screen right here? Anybody who does not? All right, then let's go over. We talked about this yesterday, but let's go and look at I think this is everything. Let me double check. Yep. So we'll look at, this is the code for the banana, and then we'll bring up the code for the monkey. So bring up your bananas code. And this says when the program starts, you call get bananas ready, which is this. That positions the bananas right there, which is -12, 172, and it sets the size of the bananas to 20%. Notice if it was 100%, that would be too big. All right, so we knocked it down from 100% to 20%. Made it smaller, and that's what we're doing here. So again, this says when the program starts, call this. And what this is, what that call does is it calls this routine, which positions the banana and sets its size. Now, does everybody have that code? Anybody still putting that in? All right.
I'm putting it in.
Okay, then we're going to wait for a second. I keep checking and going back to my other window just to make sure that I don't have anybody who's send me an email that they can't get in. Let me know when you've got everything in there.
I got everything in there.
Okay. Then let's continue on and we'll put in the code for the monkey. Now I changed a little bit of this.
Can you make like 5?
Sure, I can wait for a second. Let me just mention, I won't change the code, but when we get to the monkey, not just like with the banana, we're going to have a get monkey ready, which is going to position the monkey right here and set the monkey size. All right. All right, is everybody caught up now? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay, anybody still working on it? All right, then let's go over to the monkey. Now, don't worry, we'll have time to look at all the code. But the first thing I want to make sure you do is do this get monkey ready. So I'm going to move all this other stuff. I'm going to move it down just so it's out of the way for now. All right, so we're first going to come in here. If you didn't do this yesterday, then I want you to do it right now. What do I mean? You'll have to go to blocks. You'll have to make a block. and call it Get Monkey Ready. And that'll then just give you this piece right here. Then put these two lines inside. I'm going to take for granted that at least some of you have to do this. Even if you did it yesterday, I knocked the size of the monkey down to 9%. That's it seems to be a pretty good size for this. So you might want to do that on yours as well. I'm going to wait for about 5 minutes because I want to make sure everybody is set up with this one. So it's 9:31. At 9:35, I'm going to say, does everybody have this? Okay, it's not quite 9:35, but does everybody have this? Is everybody all caught up? Is there anyone who's not caught up? And please be honest, because I don't want to go on if you're not. All right. Sounds like then that you all are. So we've got this to get the monkey ready. And again, what this one is doing is it's positioning the monkey at 11 and negative 168. So it's positioning the monkey right there. And it's setting the monkey size to 9. Because notice if I set this back to 100 right here and hit enter, that's not going to be very easy to play the game. The monkey is going to be constantly hitting into the maze. So we set it down to about 9. So that's the first one. All right. That's the long one. So we'll do the shorter one next. All right. So when the game starts, and I'll give you time to put this in. I'll give you time, but let me just go over everything. This says when the game starts, call Get Monkey Ready. You already know what that is. We just went over that. Then in a forever loop, what this is doing is this is checking to see if the monkey is touching the bananas. If the monkey is touching the bananas, and I changed the order of these from yesterday. If the monkey is touching the bananas, we play sound cheer until done. We say, hooray, I won for 4 seconds. We broadcast next maze, and we call Get Monkey Ready. Now, before you put that in, even if you're already typing, just stop for a second, please, especially those of you who are a little bit behind. What I want you to do is go to sounds. Up on the top here, we've already gone to code. We've gone to costumes. I want you to go to sounds. And under sounds, I want you to go down to this thing at the bottom, and I want you to choose a sound. The first option that's in there. You can play anything you want. And if you want to hear what they sound like, if I want to hear what guitar sounds like, there it is. But we want to cheer because if the monkey has won the game, we're going to let them know. So there's 2 of them here. I chose cheer. And there's also gold cheer. They pretty much sound the same. But to choose it, all you do is click on it. That's it. All right. Now, I don't need 2 of them, but now I've got it. And if you want to hear what it sounds like once it's in here, you just click on this. All right. So that's what we've got in there. Then go back to your code, and now you can put this in. I'll give you about 5 minutes or so. I'll ask you in about 5 minutes, has everybody finished this? Go ahead. Last thing quickly is make sure you put all of this code here, all that if code inside of the forever, and make sure you put all of this code, the play sound, the say, the broadcast inside of the if. And it's an if then, it's not an if then else. Go ahead. All right, is there anyone who's still putting in that code? And if you are, please tell me, I'll wait. But does everybody have it done, or is there anybody still working on it? All right, since I'm not hearing anything, I'm going to expect that you've all got that code in. Before we go on, I just want to show you this because I want to show you what this is doing. Now, unfortunately for all of you, I'm not very good at this, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So hopefully you can see me playing the game now on the screen. Sorry, I know that must seem like a long, long time to you, but just about there. And now notice, as soon as I touch the bananas, what happens? It cheers and it says, hooray, I won. All right. And what happened, what you may or may not have noticed, the monkey's back and I went to a new maze. Now you don't have all that code to do that. I'm going to give that to you right now. But the reason that I did this was not to waste my time, not to waste your time. But what I wanted to show you was everything that was happening in here. So this forever loop keeps running continuously to check to see if the monkey is touching the bananas. If the monkey's not touching the bananas, there's no else in here, so we don't do anything. But as soon as the monkey is touching the bananas, we play that cheer sound until it's done. When it's done, we say, hooray, I won for 4 seconds. We broadcast the next maze message, which comes back over here and changes to our next maze. All right, and then we call get monkey ready again, and you all know what that is because we already looked at the get monkey ready up here. So my question to you is there anybody who doesn't understand what's going on in this code? I can repeat it if need be. You all understand what's happening here, correct? Anybody say yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Then let's put in the rest of the code. And that's down here. Now it's pretty long. So what we'll do is we'll start it, but I promise that every day that we are going to have our break at 9:50. So I'm going to go for about 7 minutes and then we're going to take a break. Now, don't start typing it because I want to quickly run through it and I want to make sure you see how this is set up. This is the when clicked again. And again, we didn't have to, we're already calling get monkey ready up here, but I'm calling it again. It's not hurting anything. But in a forever loop, I'm going to have an if within an if, then another if within an if, then another if within an if, and then another if within an if. The question got asked yesterday, if I type this first one, can I just right mouse click on it then and choose duplicate? And you can do that, but you're going to have to manually go in and change all this stuff. Or you can do it by just grabbing each thing. So what this one does, this first if statement, the one that's right here, the if that starts right here and it ends right here, says, hey, if I press the right arrow, change X by 3. So move to the right by 3. Yesterday, this was 5. I changed it from 5 to 3 because it was getting caught on the maze. At 3, it did not get caught. So if you still have 5 on yours, change it to 3. If I touch the maze, back up. So instead of going forward 3, go back to 3. So I go back to where I started from. Then we do the same thing with the left arrow, but with the left, we're going negative. So if the left arrow is pressed, we go negative 3. And again, if we're touching the maze, we back it up by going positive 3. Then we do our up arrow. And with our up arrow, if that's pressed, we want to go up. So we change Y by positive 3. But if we hit the side of the maze or the top of the maze or whatever, we back it up by changing Y by minus 3. And finally, with our key down, we're going in a negative direction. So if key down was pressed, we change by negative 3. And if we're touching the maze, we change it by 3 to back it back up again. So with all that said, I'm going to leave this up here. All right. Start typing this. It should take you about 5 minutes. But once you get that done, we're going to take a break and we're going to pick it back up at 10 o'clock.
Excuse me.
Yes.
How many times are you supposed to duplicate it?
Well, you're going to do it 4 total times. But you
Okay.
want to make sure each if like this is in its own container. So if that's hard, then just put them in manually. That's what I did because to me, it was easier actually to do it that way. But there's one if here, there's another if here, another if here, and another if there. So there's a total of 4 ifs, and each if has an if inside of it. So again, I'm going to stop recording. I can still hear you if you have questions, but I'm going to stop recording, or I'm going to pause the recording. All right, until 10 o'clock. No, that's not the one I want. So let's see.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to continue on, and I want to make sure that everybody gets this, because somebody asked this before. Let's pretend for a second that this, see, I've got all the code in here, but let's pretend inside of this forever block, this is all the code you have. Just this. If you right mouse click on it and you choose duplicate, it'll copy everything that you have all the way down. So if you want to do that, you can. And then what you'll have to do is you'll have to change right arrow to left arrow. And you'll have to change, instead of saying x by 3, x by -3, you'll say x by -3 and x by 3. So that's the next one that's right here. Okay, so that was the first one. I'll make it a little smaller. Maybe we can get them both in there. There. So you can see both of them. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to put the second thing full in there, and then we'll go on and do the last one. Now, is there anybody who's still putting in the code that is not caught up to where I am right now?
I'm still putting in.
You what?
I'm still putting in the code.
Okay, I'll give you a
Here's
minute or
my
two.
birthday.
What I want to do, I'm going to leave this, I'm going to put it right here. It's not going anywhere, but I just want to show you what I meant before. So let's pretend I didn't have this code in there. You can see it there, but we're going to pretend for a second I don't have it there. So I'm going to go and click on events, and I'm going to choose when clicked. I'm going to click on my blocks and I'm going to choose get monkey ready. Now it looks, so far it looks just the same. Now I'm going to go and click on control and I'm going to find a forever loop. Nothing new there. You can see it looks pretty much the same right now. But now I'm going to go over under the controls and I'm going to find an if then, and I'm going to put that right there. All right. And then inside of here, I'm going to go to the blue, the sensing, and I'm going to say key pressed right there. And what key? The right arrow. I'm just duplicating what I'm showing over here. So the right arrow. So if the right arrow was pressed, what do I want to do? Well, you know, as it says here, I want to change X by 3. So I go over to the other blue one, which is motion, and I find change X by, put it in there, and I put in 3. But remember, when we do this, we're going to eventually hit the side of the maze. So what I want to do then is put in another if block right underneath where it says change that. So right there. And this one should say if I'm touching, and if I'm touching the maze, then instead of moving it, changing it by 3, I want to change it. I want to back it up, for lack of better words, and I want to change it by -3. Now, why did I show you that? Because you already have done that. Well, what I want to show you is this. Now I can right mouse click on here and choose duplicate and see that it made an exact copy. See that? So now I can change the right arrow to left arrow and change this +3 to a -3 and this -3 to a +3. Now I've got the same thing. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody have any questions on that? Now, if I want to, I can come back and now I can again do a file or a right mouse click and duplicate. And whoops, I don't know what happened to it. But now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. All right. So now all I have to do is instead of, I have to change all these. These will have to be changed Y's by instead of change X by. This will have to become up arrow and this one will have to become down arrow. Now that you might have found that confusing. And if you did, I'm sorry, I'm going to get rid of it. But what I wanted to show you was we've now done the right arrow and the left arrow. So now what's left are these two, the up arrow and the down arrow. Now, does anybody still need this code right here for the left arrow or for the right arrow and the left arrow? If you do, please say yes. All right, then I'm going to move it up so you can put in your up arrow and down arrow, and that'll finish all the code. If you have already put that in and you finished it, save it, try to play it, see if, if you've got everything in there correctly. You should be able then to use your arrow keys that are right below the shift key in the bottom, near the bottom right of your keyboard. Start the game up and see if they all work. And it's 10:08. I'll give you about 5 minutes to finish this up. And again, if any of you run into any problems, so if you've done all that, you're like, mine's not working and I don't know why. All right. You can let me know, but if you still are running into problems, you can always bring this one up. This is the one I'm working on right now. This is the finished project. So you can bring that up in a new browser window, hit remix and save it, and then you'll have a working copy.
No, mines keep going only left and right.
So your up and down don't work? Did you change
No.
these? Did you change these to up arrow and down arrow?
Yes,
You did.
yes.
So only the left and the right work. Huh. Did you change these from X to Y?
No,
You have to. These can't be changed X by because then they're only going to move up and down. These have to be changed Y by, all four of those. It won't let me join. Okay. So hold on a second. Somebody is trying to get in and is having problems, so I'm going to have to give them some help. So I will be right back. So let's see. All right, I'm back. Is there anybody who's still working on it that is having problems? Your arrow keys won't work or whatever. Anybody? Has anybody finished and tried playing the game? If you have, just say yes.
Yes.
Is it working?
Yeah. Is it possible on Scratch to set a timer, then have something happen when the timer is over?
Is it possible
That's
you've
what
set
I
a
wanted to
timer?
do too.
Yes. And I'll
Like,
tell
and
you
then have
what,
something
I'll tell you
when the
what, I
timer's
will,
over. Like,
I want to write that down and I will put a timer. I will add a timer to this for tomorrow. Is that okay?
yeah, and
Yeah, I
adding like
wish,
like when the timer's over, have a character say like, "Oh no," or something like that too.
okay.
Thank you.
So in other words, what you want to do is you only want to give them a certain amount of time to get through the maze.
Yes.
Okay, we can do that.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. At first, I was thinking that we were thinking the same thing, but I kind of want to add a timer that's counting up for each
We can do
maze,
that
and then
too.
it'll tally that
So
up.
are you saying there that you want to see how long it's taking you to get through the maze?
Mm, no, it's mostly just to time others to see how fast they can get through it, and then eventually, once all the mazes are done, it'll add the timer up.
Well, I mean, there's different ways that you can do this. You know, what we can do is we can have a running timer. And for the person who wanted to do something after a certain amount was reached, then you could add code that just put an if in there that said if the time was so and so, then you would just tell it to stop. You know, the game was, you know, you'd have a message that said game over or whatever. You know, we could do that. And then for everybody else, we could just keep a running time so you could see how much time it took you to get through all the mazes. I don't know if that's what you mean or not, but that's, I've done that kind of stuff in the past. Now, we had a person who supposedly at least was locked out, and I think it was George. Is that right? Are you back? Okay, well, they might still be locked out. I don't know, but they said they got kicked off of the system and they were trying to get back on again. It was Macklin Bradley. Is that person still here? Are you here?
Yes.
Okay, so you're able to get back in. Good.
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure because I the last thing in the world I want to do is lock anybody out. All right. So am I right then in assuming that everyone has had a chance to put in all of the code? Is that correct? Is there anyone who's still working on the code? All right, not hearing anything. Then what we're going to do is we're now going to make this a two-player game, but we're not going to do it the same way we've done it in the past. You've already got a working copy, or hopefully you do. So please, everybody, do a file, save now, do a file, save now. And then after you've done that, do another file, but choose save as a copy. All right. So now I've got, I am Jeffrey P. Mays, single player. And then at the end, it says copy. Well, it's not going to be a single player. It's going to be a multiplayer. So I'm going to change the name of it in here already. So we did a file save as copy, and I'm going to call this one, I am Jeffrey P. Mays game, and I'm just going to call it multiplayer. You can call it whatever you want. All right. And I'm immediately going to hit share. And just so you see it, I had given you this before. This is the finished one, the single player. So this will be the one for the multiple player right there. I'll put it up again later. You don't have to worry about it. But if you run into any problems when you're working on this, you'll be able to go to that. And believe it or not, there's not really very much code we have to put in to get this to go for multiplayer. So I want to go over it with you. I'll be able to explain it, and we'll be able to do most, if not all, the code before our next break. But if I'm going too fast, please stop me. Okay? Now, the first thing I'm going to do is, let's see. Okay, I don't want that up anymore. All right, so I'm right here. Okay, and see inside, yeah. Okay, there we are. All right, so we've got that. It's an exact duplicate of what we did before. That's good. But first, I want to talk about what we have to change. And again, when I'm going through this, if there's anything that doesn't make sense, please let me know. The first thing I'm going to do is, so I can tell the difference between the games, I'm going to change my backdrop. So instead of this blue one, I'm going to go to backdrops, and I'm going to choose the one I mentioned. excuse me, I mentioned before, the light. So I now have got that. Okay, now I'm going to need 2 more sprites. You can choose anything you want, but before we choose those sprites, I will tell you, I found this out before. There's 2 things we have to do with what we've got up here right now. The first thing is, believe it or not, this banana is now going to be a little bit too big because we're going to put another sprite underneath it. So I'm going to change the size of the banana from 20 to 10. And I know it looks really, 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 really dinky. I get that. All right. But I want it up there. In fact, let's see if we put it in the middle, if 15 would work. So 15. Maybe that's a little better. All right. So we put it at 15 because we're going to make a new sprite and put it underneath here in just a minute. So I changed the size of my banana from 20 to 15, which means in here, I want to change it to 15 as well. Does that make sense to everybody? And notice it's been repositioned to -14. So I'm going to change this from -12 to -14. And it went from 172 to 175. Now, does everybody see what I did? Does that make sense to everybody? I'm going to make a new sprite and put it down underneath here.
Can you repeat it?
Sure. I will go over everything, but in just a second, I'm going to make another sprite that's going to go below the banana. And the size the banana currently was, a new sprite wouldn't have fit there. So I made the banana smaller by changing its size, which was at 20%. It was here. Watch how the banana grows. Oh, I guess I got to do it here. So I'll change it here from 15 to 20 and hit enter. Watch the banana grow. You can see it got bigger. That's too big. I'm not going to be able to fit another sprite underneath here. So I changed it from 20 to 15. And since I changed it there, I want to change it here as well in my get banana ready to 15. And I moved it to -14, 175. So all I did was I resized and I repositioned the banana. That's all I did right here. Does that make sense to everyone?
Can you repeat it?
All right. What are we doing here? I'm going to change the order of these. It really doesn't matter which one I put first. Our banana, originally, we had it at 100%. So originally the banana was this big. And you realize looking at it, that's kind of silly. I think you get that, right? So we wanted to make it smaller. So we could try, for example, to make it 50% so it was half of its size. And that's still too big. So we could cut it down to 25% of its size. And that's pretty close to what we had before. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put another sprite underneath the banana because the monkey's going to be going for the banana. And in just a minute, we're going to put another sprite down here too. And whatever you choose for your second one is going to be going for that sprite. So the monkey's going to be going this way, and the other thing is going to be going this way. So I want to change the size of the banana to 15%. Okay, and when we do that, it's small, but another sprite's going to fit underneath it in just a minute. When we moved it, when we changed its size, it's going to change where it's located too. So this used to be -12, 173. I made it -14, 175. So what Define Bananas does is it sizes the banana and it positions it on the screen. And that's all we have to do for that. And hopefully that makes sense to everybody. All right. And hopefully you've had a chance to change that. Anybody who's still got to get that changed? All right, then let's go to the monkey. And there's only one thing we got to do to the monkey. The monkey size is okay, but we want to move the monkey up a little bit already. Why? Because whatever is going to be coming the other direction, We want it to go right there. All right, so I'm going to position it, and I might have to change it a little, but I'm going to position it right there. So under the get monkey ready, this one that we did before, I still want it to be 9% for its size. And again, it doesn't matter which of these you put first. But now, instead of having it be at 11 minus 168, I've got it at 12 minus 154. So I'm doing the same kind of thing I did to the monkey, or to the banana, I mean. I don't have to resize it, but I'm repositioning where it starts on the screen. So I made my banana smaller, and I repositioned it, and I repositioned my monkey, but I didn't make the monkey any smaller. So the monkey is going to be going up like this, doing all this stuff. And now we're going to add a new sprite. You can add whatever you want. I'm going to add an elephant, and I'm going to have the elephant going down here for an apple. So I'm taking for granted, unless I hear otherwise, that everybody understands what we've done so far. The good news is, when we bring in those two sprites, we're going to do a lot of copying, and we won't have very much code to write. All right. So I'm going to go up to choose a sprite. Doesn't matter which one we choose first, but, well, what's there under animals? We can have any of these things. So you can choose whatever you want. All right. And if you've got a favorite, I mean, you could even choose Sprite again, the cat, if you wanted to. But I'm looking in here, maybe I'm going to look for something a little bit smaller. And I don't know, we could choose anything, but I'm going to choose, how about the snake? All right, so I'll choose the snake. So there that is. Now it's way too big, and it's not positioned correctly, but I now have a snake. All right, the snake is going to be going down to here, and maybe the snake is the wrong thing to choose. I don't know, but I'm going to start by trying to make him about 9% like I did with the monkey. That might be too small. So let's check on him. Let's try it about 12%. All right, and now I'm going to put him, move him. I want to, whoops, I'll fix that in a second. But I want to move the snake so it's right under the bananas. Everybody see that? I moved the snake so it was right underneath the bananas. Now somehow I accidentally moved my my maze, so I'm going to reposition that at 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay, and now I'm going to go back to the snake. So if you don't want the snake, you don't have to have it. You can put whatever you want in here. But the snake has got to be going for something down here too. I could just copy the banana down here, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to grab something else. So I'm going to grab one more sprite. All right. And I have no idea what snakes like to eat. So I'm just going to grab something from here. I don't know what. And I'm going to say that
Small
the snake,
animals.
what's that? Yeah, small animals. You're probably right. But I'm just going to choose an orange. Maybe that's a silly thing to choose, but that's what I'm gonna, how about a muffin? There you go. I'm going to choose a muffin. All right. And I want to make the muffin small. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to change its size. I'll change that to about 12%. And that looks, again, pretty small. If I try it about 15%. That doesn't look bad. Now I'm going to take the muffin and I'm going to drag it right underneath the monkey. So now I've got a monkey going for bananas and I've got a snake going for a muffin. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody not understand what I've done?
Can you repeat it?
Sure. We already had the monkey right here. We already had the banana right here. We repositioned the monkey so it started up a little higher. We made the banana smaller and we repositioned that. Now underneath the banana, we've got the snake. That's going to be our second player. And the snake has got to go for something down here. So we brought in a muffin. Now we're not done yet, but we're going to be able to copy a lot of the code that we did previously. All right. So what do I mean? Well, let's do the easy thing first. All right. The easiest thing is for our muffin, because all we want to do with our muffin is just position it like we positioned the banana. So I'm going to grab this when clicked. I'm going to drag it down and put it on my muffin and let go. And what did that do? That grabbed this, right? But when we click, we don't want to get the banana ready. No, we want to write a new routine that's going to get the muffin ready. So again, I copied the code by dragging it. And if you don't want to do that, just start all over. So come in here, go to events, find the when clicked. Okay. And all we're going to do in here is the same thing we did in here. We're going to call a new routine that we're going to write in just a minute. All right. So we're going to come over here. We're going to go to blocks and we're going to make a new block that's called get muffin ready. And again, if you didn't use a muffin, you can call it whatever you want. All right. So what do we want to do? We're going to have to define that in just a minute, but that's all we want to do when the program starts is called get muffin ready. And what's that get muffin ready going to do? The same thing we did with a banana. We want to set the size and we want to set our go to XY. So all we have to do is come in here, find our set. What color was that? The purple one. We want to set the size first. And what's the size set to? Well, we already can see here it's set to 15. So we'll do a purple. We'll do a set size to right there, 15%. That makes sure that when the program runs, it'll be set correctly. And we want to set, where's its position? It's 17 minus 173. All right, it's 17 minus 173. So we want to go to XY at 17 minus 173. Now, I want to show you what this just did. If you're still putting in the code, don't worry about it. But just for a second, I'm going to take the banana and I'm going to make it 100% on purpose. So it's way too big. So now we got this huge banana and I'm going to do the same thing to the muffin. I'm going to make it 100%. Well, right now the game wouldn't play very well, but notice when I run the program, as soon as I started, the muffin and the banana get put into the right place and they're the right size. That's what this did. So the code that we put in so far right here, let me make it a little bigger so you can see it okay. That said, when the program starts, call this new block that we just added that's called get muffin ready. And in the get muffin ready block, it sets the size to 15% and it positions that. That's all we've done so far. So we've kind of duplicated what we did for the banana, but we resized it. So the banana, remember the banana was, well, it was 15 also, but this position was negative 14, 175, which is up there. This position is 17 negative 173, which is down here. Now, is there anyone who still has any questions on what that's doing? This is your time to ask if you do. So right now, we've got everything done except the snake has no code. So you've already seen me run this, but when I run it, the snake doesn't do anything. I can't hit my arrow keys. I can move the monkey. The monkey's moving, but I want to be able to move my A, S, D, and W keys. And I'm hitting them now and nothing's happening. So what we want to do is almost copy the code we had for the monkey and put it in for the snake. We'll have to make changes, but we're going to do a lot of copying. All right, so I'm going to stop the run here and let's go back one more time to our monkey and remember what our monkey had. All right, we've got a get monkey ready. So we're going to need a get snake ready. All right, so that's the first thing. And then remember, we had this block here. I know it's little, but we'll make it bigger in a second. We had this block. So we'll have to make those two blocks, but for the snake instead of for the monkey. So we're going to have this. We're going to have a get snake ready. So let's go over to the snake. And again, if you use something else, it's fine. But I'm going to want to go to events and when clicked, and I'm going to have to write another block. And that block will be called get snake ready. So I've got that. I click OK. There it is. I'm going to put code in there in just a minute, but now I'm calling it. So what does get snake ready do? The same thing that this did. I want to size it and position it. That's it. So I go back to my snake and my snake is at 12%. So I want to do a set size to 12%. And again, that was purple. And then I want to do a blue position. So, whoops, try that again. So I want to go to purple and I want to do a set size. And I want to set the size of the snake to 12%. And then I want to position it. And that's blue, that's a motion. I want to go to X, Y, and I want to make sure that it's right there, which is where, I'm sorry, right there. There's our snake, who's at -16,166, and there it is. So now I've got, when the program starts, my snake should be sized correctly and positioned correctly. How do I know if that worked or not? Well, I'm going to come over here to the snake, and I'm going to reset its size for just a second to 100% right there. Now the snake's way too big. You can all see that. But when I run the program, this code will run, which should resize the snake correctly. So let's see if it does. And there it is. It's been resized and it's been repositioned correctly. All right. Now I can explain that again if people need it. But my question is what we did, what we've done so far by adding this muffin code here and adding the snake code, we're not done. We've got 2 more blocks to add for our snake. But is what we've done, does anybody have any questions on it? Anybody? Because I'm hoping that right around the time we get to our break, we'll almost be finished with this. And if we are, then between 11 and lunch, we'll start on our next program, which is going to be our brick breaker game. The good news about that brick breaker game, you won't have to add anything, and no new sprites where I have to give you anything or whatever. All right. Now, when the monkey gets to the bananas, you've already heard this and seen this. All right. Then it plays that cheer. We could do the same thing. We can do the same exact thing and have the same cheer if we want to for the snake. But what I've provided for you, and I'm going to put it in the chat again right now. I might not have done it before, but in the chat, I'm going to add a new file right now. And that's going to be this file that's called, where is it? It should be probably down at the bottom. Oh, come on, where? Oh, it's not in here. I've got it in a different folder. It's in sounds. It's called Queen, We Are the Champions. And if you remember, I played that for you yesterday. So if I double click on it, now I've added it out there. Let's see, I think it's out. There it is. So you can add that one. If you don't want that one, you don't have to have it. But you can bring that one in to your program if you want to. Because now that I've got that file in there, if I go back to sounds, all right, and then I go to choose a sound, but I go up to the top to upload sound. Okay, now I've got this Queen thing. And I played it for you yesterday, but I'll play it again so you hear it. So in other words, that's what's going to happen if the snake gets to the muffin before the monkey gets to the banana. But if the monkey wins, we're going to have the thing for the monkey. Well, that's not here because that didn't copy over. So I'm going to again go to choose a sound, and I'm going to choose sounds. And this time I'll do the gold cheer. This one right here. All right, so I'm going to put that one in. So that's what's going to happen. So if the monkey wins, it's going to play that. It's going to play this. Oh, not that one. Sorry. If the monkey wins, it's going to play this. And if the snake wins, it's going to play that. And I'll stop it right there. Does that make sense to everybody? We could have had it play the same thing. We could have had no sound whatsoever. We could have done whatever we wanted to. And it's kind of interesting if you look up on my screen here, see this thing that says pop, listen to this. Now listen to what it sounds like. I'm hitting it a bunch of times. When we do our brick breaker game, we're going to have a pop like that. So when we hit a brick, it's going to pop. It's going to disappear and it's going to pop. So we got sound and we'll have animation for it also. That's what we're going to start doing this afternoon. All right. So I now have everything. Let me go back to my code. I now have everything I need for my muffin, and I'm doing the snake. All right. So let's start on the snake. Now, again, there's two different ways of doing this. I've got my one click get snake ready. Not a problem. Under my monkey, there's my get monkey ready. You already saw that one. Let me get this smaller and move these. Whoops, move these two over so you can see them. All right, we had this one that when we clicked, what did we want to do? We wanted to click, get the monkey ready, etc. You can see all this stuff, right? Well, we've got two choices. We can either rewrite this code from scratch, or I can grab this code right here and I can copy it right over to the snake and let go. But what we're going to put in here next, and I got to move all this stuff around a little bit. I'm going to make this bigger so you can see everything. All right. And I'm going to get this stuff out of the way so it's out of your way. So this is in my snake. I don't want to call get monkey ready. Should make sense to you. I want to call get snake ready. So I don't need this one. But if I click over here, there's my get snake ready. I want a forever block. Now, can somebody tell me? I don't want bananas right there. What do I want there? Can somebody tell me that? What is the snake trying to capture?
The muffin.
The muffin. So we want that to say muffin. And we don't want to play cheer. We want to play Queen, we are the champions until done. And let's change our message here. It's from hooray, I won to how about I beat the monkey? I beat the monkey. Okay. There's that. So again, what is it doing? When the game starts, we call get snake ready, and then we stay in this loop. And if we are touching the muffin, then we play the sound, we are the champions. We say, I beat the monkey, and we go to the next maze. And we tell it the monkey to reposition itself. My question to you is, does everything I just said to you make sense?
Yes.
No? Okay. Well, I want to do one thing, and then I'm going to leave this code up here for you to copy. But I want to do one thing first. That is, I want to go to the monkey here. And remember, I don't have cheer anymore. I changed that to gold cheer. So I'm going to change mine here to, I guess it is cheer. I thought that I didn't have that. So let's see. Sounds. It is cheer. Okay, that's fine. So I don't even have to change it. It's totally fine the way it is. So I'll tell you what. It is, it is 10 44 right now. And I'm going to go back to here. All right. It should take you about 5 minutes to put this code in. So that'll bring us to our next break, which is 10:50. So I'm going to start up again at 11 o'clock and we'll put in the last bit of code and then we'll have a 2-player game. All right, so I'm going to be here. I'm going to go and get another water. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, not this will stay on, but I'm going to pause the recording and I'm going to pick it up again in 15 minutes at 11 o'clock. All right, I'm going to start back up. Hopefully everybody has come back. I want to mention one thing quickly. That is, originally here, this said get monkey ready. Make sure yours says get snake ready. Doesn't make any sense in a routine for the snake to call get monkey ready. So again, we're saying when you click this, get snake ready, and get snake ready again is going to, wherever that was, it's going to set the size and it's going to position the snake. Then we go into this loop where we're checking to see if the snake is touching the muffin. If the snake is touching the muffin, we should play that queen, we are the champions, say, ha, I beat the monkey, and broadcast next maze, which is going to change us to the next maze, and then reposition the snake back to the beginning. All right. The good news is, believe it or not, we're going to be done with this in 10 minutes. All right. The first thing I want to do is I want to grab these blocks of code and I want to move them down. So I want to grab this and move it way down. I'm going to even move it down further. Then I'm going to do the same thing with these. I want to grab this one and I'm going to move it way down. You'll see why in just a minute. So I'm going to move that down. And then I'm going to grab the one up here and I'm going to move that one down. And I might not have even moved it down enough, but that's okay. So I'm going to move it like that. Then I'm going to go back up. Well, I didn't move it down enough. I can tell already. So let me move it down more and more and more. All right. I guess it actually only lets you move it down a certain amount. But up here, what I want to do is I want to go back to the monkey and I want to grab that big block of code that we put in. There it is right here, this big block. Remember this? This has got all the stuff there, touching the maze, etc. I want to grab that whole big block and I want to copy that block, the one that says if right arrow pressed, if left arrow pressed, if up arrow pressed, if down arrow pressed, all that stuff. I want to grab that whole thing from the when clicked and I want to copy it over to the snake. So that's what I'm going to do right now. There it is. And now I've made the copy. All right, now I can reposition this stuff a little bit here, make it look a little better, but I don't have to do that, but I can do that. Bring that one down a little. There, now I've got that stuff. Now I'm going back to the snake, and guess what? Believe it or not, you already know what you should be doing here. I'm going to move this down. I want this to be, oops, oh, try that again. I want this to be down further and further. So I want that down. This is what we just copied over. I'm going to get this out of the way too. So let me move this. All right. And the other thing that's still there is this. So I'll just move that over to there. So this is what we've got before from Get Monkey Ready. And guess what? You're almost done. First thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the Get Monkey Ready. Right there. Come on. And we want to replace it with a Get Snake Ready. All right. Then all you have to do is where it says right arrow, we want to change the right arrow to the letter D. So when I click over here, notice it shows me letters. I want the letter D. And remember, the monkey's moving this way, up, etc., where the snake is moving down. So I change this from right to D, and I want to change this from a 3 to a -3, and this one from a -3 to a +3. Now, I may have done that too fast, so I'm going to go over it all over again. I copied that big block of code from the monkey over to the snake. Then I went in and it had said, when clicked, get monkey ready, but we're working with a snake now, so I changed it to get snake ready. Now I'm putting in this big forever loop. And the only thing I've changed so far is this is my right arrow. But because I want to let two people play, one person will be using the arrow keys and one person will be using ASDW. And if you say, what are you talking about, ASDW? Guess what? You know what that is also. What do I mean? Give me just a second here. All right. Let's see. Let's do it. Can you all see on the screen right now? I'm asking you this question, so if anybody can answer from my PowerPoint where it said welcome to Scratch.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I see
what we just did was the D key, which was right arrow. So when we have two people playing, one person's going to be using the arrow keys that are down on the right-hand bottom corner of the keyboard, and the other person is going to be using the keys that are on the regular the keyboard, the W, A, S, and D key. So the only one we programmed right now is the D. All right. Now, why am I telling you that? Who cares? You should care, and I want to show you why. So let me make sure. Let's see. Do you see my program again?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to do a file save because I haven't saved it for a while. So I'm going to do a file save now, and I'm going to run this again. Whoops, not from there. I'm going to go and I'm going to make it bigger, and I'm going to run it again. Try it again. Click the right button this time. There we go. Now, does the snake move to the right? No, the monkey does. But does the snake move to the right when I use the D? See that? And I guess I have them going to the left. I don't know why, but we'll fix it. We're going to have all of these working in just a couple minutes. All right. You'll have to take my word for it, but we will. We'll have it working in literally in about 5 minutes. So let's stop the run. Let's go back again. So now we said D. All right. And D was our right arrow. So we're changing. Let's see. I'm not sure if I got the right keys in here. I think I do. But remember, we still want to see if we're touching the maze. So we've got the D. All right. And what's the opposite of the D? That's the A. So instead of left arrow, we want to change this to A. And we want to change this -3 to a +3, and this +3 to a -3. I'm going to make this a little smaller. So this is what we've done so far in here. We came in, we copied that when clicked, that big long code block from the monkey into our snake. All right. And this was right arrow, but the right arrow now will be the D key. The left arrow now will be the A key. All right. And this may, I may even have this wrong. Let me look at my notes here because I'm doing it all off the top of my head. So let's see. All righty. I think it's going to end up being right, but we'll see. In fact, we still want to move it left and right. I don't even know if we have to change these. This might still be, maybe I did it backwards. This might still be 3 and -3, and this might be -3 and 3. The good news is I can test it right away. Now I'll come right back to this, but I just saved it and I'm going to run it again. All right. Notice how that jumped back into place. Well, now can I use the D? Yeah, now the D is moving to the right and the A is moving to the left. Right, left. So the only thing I have to do yet are the up and the down. And then we're finished. So let me stop the run. Make sure that what you've got in here so far looks like this. I'll give you a minute or two. But the code for your snake or whatever you used for your other Sprite, make sure that that looks like this. So I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to get that finished. All right, did everybody get a chance to put in the A code and the D code? Is there anybody still working on that, or did everybody get it done?
I'm still working on it.
Okay, I'll give you a second then, because there's only 2 more changes we've got to make, and then we should be able to run it, and ideally, at least, it's going to work. Now, even if you're still working on it, I'll come right back to that. But for the rest of you, if you haven't figured it out, the only other 2 changes you should have to make is change up arrow to W and change down arrow to S. All right. Once you do that and you do a file save, it should be working, I believe, and I'll come right back to it. But now the snake can go there. Now look at this. Can everybody see the problem with the snake right now? Whoops, not there. The snake it's actually still too big. See this? When it tries to go down in here, it's going to be too big. Can everybody see what I'm talking about? So I'm going to have to make the snake even smaller. So I'm going to stop the run and go back to my snake. And right now the snake is at what? 12%. I'm going to try setting it to 9%. I think that's what the monkey was. And it's even smaller. All right. And I'm going to make sure that it says 9 in here as well. And I'm going to try to quickly run it again. All right. And just to make sure that I don't have problems with this, I want to make sure that it can go down. See that? Now it can. Previously, now it can go down, it can go up, it can go left, and it can go right. So up a little bit and then right. All right. Now I'm not going to bore you with having you watch me play it, but what I'd like you to do is to play a game, play it once, and do it. Just have the snake moving, unless you're really good and you can, with one hand, you can do the ASDW, and the other hand, you can do your mouse. Maybe you're that good. I'm sure not. But I'd like you to play it again. And I'd like you to see when you get down to the bottom for the snake, if the snake wins, all right, if the music plays, all right. Did you all understand what I'm talking about? I want you to test the program.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to give you a couple minutes. Now, the person who is still having some problems, we're not problems, but still putting this in, do you have this done? Does everybody have this part of it done?
No.
All right, then I'm going to leave it up there until you tell me you do. When you're done, just say done, and then I'll move it down, okay? Because we're not in any hurry.
I'm done.
Okay, I'll move it down then. So here's the rest of it right there. Again, I'll give you a couple minutes, and then I want to talk for about 5 minutes about something that's really important that you may or may not have realized.
I'm done.
Okay, good. All right. Now, you may maybe realize this already and you maybe didn't. All right. We have 5 sprites in here. I know you all saw that, but notice in here, I positioned this. I wanted to make sure that if for some reason this moves, if for some reason this thing actually moves, and it should never move, but if it does, that when the game starts, it positions itself to 0-0. And really, you don't have to do this, but really what I should have done is I should have also done it down here. So that would make sure that every single time I go to a new maze, I position that maze right in the middle. Did everybody hear what I just said? It sounds probably pretty simple, but what I'm doing is, as a programmer, I'm taking control over where things are on the screen. And that's what you really should do. Because sometimes you'll say, well, I don't have to do it because the computer will do it for me. And sometimes it will. But if maybe you're too young to have run into this already, I don't know. But I've had things on the job where I can actually prove to my bosses that I didn't make a mistake. There was an error in the software. And guess what? My bosses don't care. They're like, well, you should have fixed it anyway. And I got in trouble for things that weren't my fault. But that's just the way sometimes things work. The reason I'm telling you that is the monkey, even though I set it to 9 here, I still should have something like this, where I set the size and I set the position. Even though I set it here and here, I should set it in code. Because when I set it in my code, this takes priority over whatever this is. You already saw that. Again, I can grab the monkey and I can take the monkey and move him any place. And I can make him a lot bigger. All right. But when the program runs, the monkey snaps back into place and is back at its size. So you should never take for granted that if you set something like that over here, that it's going to be correct. You should take control like we did right here. And again, it might sound like, well, okay, fine, it's really simple, and it is, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't do that. What you'll learn is, if you do decide to go into anything where you're working with computers, is that you'll hear terms like things that are done either implicitly or explicitly. And you may or may not have ever heard those words before, and you may or may not know what they mean. But when we talk about them in terms of computers here, if something is done explicitly, explicitly, that means you did it. If something is done implicitly, that means the software did it. So when I move this thing around, notice when I move this, see how right now it says 12 minus 154? Well, now since I moved it, it doesn't say that anymore. But I'm making sure that when the program starts, I'm calling get monkey ready, so it's automatically going to reposition the monkey. So I am explicitly writing over what might be there implicitly. And again, you might say, well, who cares? Well, remember, if the monkey wins at the end, if the monkey wins, the monkey's up here, right? The monkey's up there. All right. So if the monkey won, and let's just say the snake is not there, the snake is down here someplace, it doesn't matter. All right. But once the monkey, I want to make sure both of them get reset to their starting positions. So that's what I'm doing. So I am explicitly doing that. Now, the only other thing I want to ask before we finish this, is there anybody who did not get a chance to run this and make sure that it worked okay? Because if you didn't, please take a couple minutes to do that. All right, we haven't really done that a lot before, but this is probably, well, not probably, this is the most complex program we've written. And you can see there's a lot of places where it could potentially go wrong. So if you have not done so, please make sure, if you don't do it now, that you do it during lunch or whatever, and make sure it works, because if it doesn't, let me know. All right. One thing I did during the break was I went out and just typed in Scratch timer, or setting a timer in Scratch. I'm going to watch this later. I've got an old program where I put a timer in, but I don't remember how I did it. So I'm going to look at this for some guidance, and tomorrow I'll give you a timer.
I've already figured out how to do a timer, including implement. I was doing it during the short break.
Okay, great.
I to implement a game over screen too.
Okay, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can make another screen. All you have to do is come in and make, if you want a game over type of screen, for example, on yours when you're working on this, all right, all you really would have to do would be to come in here and add a new sprite.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Right, and that's great that you did that. Yeah, great. All right. So the last thing that I want to do here again is one more file. Save now. And now I've got this one. So if anyone had any problems, again, you can go out to this one right here. So this is the single player, and this is the multiplayer. And I will send you those again today at the end of the day. You will have both of those. All right. But they both, to my knowledge at least, they're both there and they're both working. One last thing that I wanted to say, if you didn't know this already, and you probably figured it out, but if you didn't, if I look on here, my guess is that most, if not all of you, are using a mouse. It might be wireless, it might be wired, etc. But this thing that's right here, that's typically referred to as the mouse wheel right there. And if I go back and I hold down on my shift key, all right, and I start turning the mouse wheel, it's going to move things on the screen, or it's going to take things and make them bigger or smaller. If I go down on the control key, it's making them bigger. And if I do the control key with the mouse wheel up, it's making it bigger. Control with the mouse wheel down, it's making it smaller. Shift with the mouse wheel is turning it to the right, or that shift up. Shift down is moving it to the left. And again, you may have already figured that out. I'm not at all trying to insult you by saying, you didn't know that. I'm showing it to you. Maybe you already did. But sometimes people like to know that stuff and they just didn't realize that was the case. All right. So it's time to start a new project. So again, if you haven't done a file save now, make sure you do. And then come in and do a file new. All right. And I'm going to call this one, again, I am Jeffrey P. And it's going to be called Brick Breaker. Now, this isn't going to be a 2-player and a multiplayer. This is going to have 2 versions. It's going to have a simple version that's going to be very scaled down. And we'll get started on that in just a minute. We'll finish that after lunch. And then we're going to have a more upscale version that's going to do a lot more. So I'm going to call mine, I am Jeffrey P, Brick Breaker V1, because this is going to be version 1. And again, as always, you're not turning this in or anything, so just call it whatever the heck you want to call it. All right, let me grab my new notes here. All right, so I've got that. Hopefully you're right where I am. And the first thing I'm going to do is, again, we don't need Sprite, the cat here. So I'm going to right mouse click on Sprite and choose, down here. I'm going to right mouse click on Sprite and choose delete. All right. I should also show you, this is, I showed you this before, but this was on Monday. So I want to show it to you right now. This is what we're going to end up making in here. So I want to show you, this is version 1 right here. All right, you'll see, I got the remix. I usually don't, so I'm surprised. But so you can remix that if you want to, but I'm going to just click the C inside and I'm going to run it. So you can see I can move this is the paddle right here. Okay, so there's the game's over. Now, the reason I'm showing you that, and notice I'm keeping score and I'm showing the score up there. You don't have to do that, but I'm doing that. But I wanted you to see is when I run it again, the only way to win is to knock over all 28 of these. So when we're testing to make it simple, I'm just going to set that 28 to 1. So I only have to get 1 in order to win the game. And hopefully what I just said made sense to you. If it didn't, just bear with me because again, this is what we're going to be working on. All right. So the first thing that we want to do, so I'm going to come back to the regular program here. The first thing we want to do is we're going to add 5 new sprites. All right. And the first 3 are the easy ones. So I'd like you to come down to Sprite here and choose a sprite. And then up here, Okay, why don't you just go into the search and type in paddle? That's going to be our paddle. Now, if you don't like that, you could make your own paddle and do what we're doing now, or you could choose something else. But this is fairly, simplistic, and I think it'll work just fine. So we've now got the paddle. Well, the next thing we want is our ball. And we're going to use, again, choose a Sprite, and we're going to choose the tennis ball. There's a ball here, but we're going to use that later. We'll use that either this afternoon or tomorrow. So I'm going to type in tennis ball. And now I've got that. So I've got two of my sprites. I've got my paddle and my tennis ball. Now I need my bricks. Well, notice if I go here and I choose a sprite and I type in brick, it doesn't give me anything. So I've got to either grab and make my own bricks or whatever. I'm going to use this button 2 that's right here. It might have even been better to use button 3 because that probably looks more like a brick. So you can use whatever you want, but I'm going to use here button 2. That's going to be my brick. Okay. So that's 3 of them. All right. Now I want 2 more things, 2 more sprites. I'm going to design them both. And as the gentleman just said, we're going to design a game over screen and basically a you win screen. The game over will mean you lost the game. And the you win screen will mean you won the game. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. So I'm going to come in here. All right. And I'm going to go over to paint. We did this the other day. So I'm going to go to paint right there. Okay. And I'm going to come in, and this one, of course, I don't want to call it Sprite 1. So I'm going to change the name on this over here to Game Over. All right. One word, Game Over, like that. So that's what I called it. Then I'm going to go over to my text. But before I do, I want this to be red. I'm going to make it as red as it can be. All right. And I don't care about the outline. You can do whatever you want to do with this. So I've got that, and I'm going to click on the T for text, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in game. How about this? Sorry, game over, and hit enter. Well, not enter. I'm just click off of it. Then I'm going to go and drag it, and I want to set it up so pretty much it's going to be bigger. All right. And it's going to fill up most of the screen. Now, don't worry right now that you can see it on the screen. We'll have that disappear later. But the point is, well, it's a little too big right now when you look at it. Okay. So I'll make it smaller, click on it, and then just drag these over. Make it like this and maybe about like this. That should work. All right. So if I look at it now, well, it's still a little too big, but you get the idea. So that'll be our game over. All right. So let's see. Move that over a bit. And now let's try it one last time. All right, a little bit more, but you see, I'm just about there. So sorry, game over. A little more. There we go. Now that probably was too far. So did I get it? Yeah, that's good. Sorry, game over. All right. Now I can position that wherever I want. I can do whatever I want to do with it. You can say whatever you want there. You can use whatever color you want. If you decide for game over, you don't want there to be a screen, you just want a weird sound to play, you'll be able to do all that stuff. All right. So that's our first one. That's our game over. And I'm going to come in and create another sprite using the paint. And I'm just going to call that one you win. So you win. And that one I'm going to make green. Let's see, I want it to be a nice dark green. That looks about right. You can do whatever you want to do with this. All right. And again, I'm going to click on text. Okay. And I'm going to say, wow, you win. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I'm going to make it, that I did before. I'm going to go over here and make it bigger and position it someplace around the middle. All right. And right now it looks terrible. Okay. Now, you may have noticed it's going to be very hard to do anything on the screen right now. But if you look up on your screen, and hopefully everybody can see where my mouse is going here, see where it says show? I'm going to click there, and notice it's gone now. And I'm going to go over to my game over, and I'm going to click there. Now they're not showing, because that's a way that you can hide stuff. It's as though you click the hide and you put in the hide command. But I don't want those things to show, because it's going to make it very hard for me to see what's on the screen. Now I'm going to have to make sure that I show them at the right time. But right now, and I'll move this down a little bit. Let's just move this over, etc. You notice each one of those has their own thing in there, but I'm going to go to code and I'm just going to run it. And you'll notice that now I don't see any of those signs. They'll come up later. All right. So we'll worry about that. As I just said, we'll worry about that later. All right. So let's see. We want to make sure, though, again, we want to take control and make sure that when the game starts, so notice I'm going to run this. Okay, and it looks okay. All right, these aren't doing anything yet, but it looks okay. But I still want to make sure. So I'm going to go over to my game over here, and I'm going to go over to my code. All right, so I'm going to go over to events, and I'm going to go over to the when clicked. And I want to make sure that when the game starts that this isn't showing. So when clicked, I'm going to say, go to purple, and I'm going to tell it to hide. And I'm going to do the same thing with the you win. So again, with the you win here, I'm going to go over to events, when clicked, and go over to the purple and tell it to hide. Now, you know this already, but if instead of hide, I said show, if I had said that, that would be wrong. But notice now, when I run the program, now it shows. That's not what I want. So I'm doing just the opposite of that. All right. And it looks like on this, let's see. Well, I got to show it, I guess. All right. So when I come over to the costume here, I want to just move that over just a little bit. There. Okay. And I'm going to do a file save because I haven't done it for a while. And I want to go back now. And I want that not to say show, but to say hide. All right. And all I've done so far on there is when the game begins, I'm making sure that both my wow you win and my game over, all right, that both of those don't show. Okay. And again, I'm going to click there so it doesn't show here. And for the you win, I'm going to click also so it doesn't show. Now, hopefully, I mean, that's not a big thing. That just made sense to everybody. All right. Now, we're going to do something we haven't done before right now. We're also going to do this. We're going to say, when I receive, we might have done this one already, but we're going to add something we haven't added before. All right. So we're going to say when I receive, and when I receive what? All right. Well, when I receive, we're going to make our own routine that's going to be called show game over. All right. So show game over. This is, again, I'm putting this in my, did I put it in the UN? That's my fault. I want it in the game over. Go to your game over and put in what I just said. So go to game over that right now has just when clicked hide. And we want the when I receive. All right. And when I receive what? Well, we're calling this, doesn't matter, show game over. All right. Now, we haven't written this yet, but we'll write it later. But when the game is over, what do we want to do? Well, game over means you lost. The you win means you won. All right. But what we want to do here is we want to take this thing that we're hiding and we want to show it. That should make sense to everybody. All right. But there's one other thing that we want to do. And I think it's under events, but I'm going to check. Looks like I'm wrong. Now I've got to find it. And I printed this out in black and white, not color, so I can't really tell what color this is. It should be under one of these two. I thought it was. There it is. Stop all. So what we're saying, what we put in so far is for our game over, when it starts, it's going to hide. When the game actually is over, if it's a show game over, meaning we lost, we're going to show that message. So again, that'll show this, sorry, game over. We could say you lost or whatever you want, but stop all means the program should just end. Period. So let's take what we've done so far, do a file, save now, and let's run it. And guess what? Nothing's going to happen because we've got no way to make it end. We didn't give it that message. But if we did, we'd see right here, sorry, game over, and boom. The program would be basically like we pressed that. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. All right. Now, the other thing is what we want to do for the you win. All right. Is, well, you might think, well, we want to just do the same thing. No. If the game's over, we're going to stop. But if you win, all right, we basically will want to start all over again. Now, we don't have to do it like that. This is our program. We can do whatever it is we want to do in here. So far, we've come in and we've added 5 sprites. So again, when you look at the finished version, and I probably removed it. No, I didn't. So when you look at the finished version, we've got, those are our bricks. There's our ball. You see what's happening. Now, if I go over to the finished version here, and I'm going to do that, and just to show you this, all right, and I'm going to go over to, where am I? I'm going to just change this to score equal 1 instead of score equal 28. And I'm going to run it again, which means all I have to do is knock over 1 brick. So now we've got that message. So I want you to understand what we're doing here. All right. We did make a new sprite, but we're using basically the same background for this. We could change it any way we wanted to. In other words, you can actually come in and change the backdrop. So we could make our own backdrop that, that would like throw confetti or whatever if we wanted to do that, because, wow, we won the game. All right. And we could do something just the opposite, make it look sad or have sad looking people to say that you lost. All right. But and also, if you're going to do this, I think I mentioned this before, now everybody's probably going to win. So you want to change that back to 28. All right. The next thing I want to talk about just for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to take our lunch break. But the next thing I want to talk about with you is what I want to do is I want to make 28 of these. 7, 7, 7, 7. So it looks like that. All right. And there's different ways that I can do this. All right, there's different ways that I can do this. I mean, the worst way of doing it would be to sit there and literally copy it 28 times. We could do that. We could put it in a loop and we could do that. All right. But what you're going to notice after lunch is there's a thing in here that says clone. So you can create a clone of yourself. You can say when I start as a clone, and you can say delete this clone. And the reason I'm telling you that is that's really important because we're going to let the system do a lot of the work for us. All right. Now that just got us started. And even though it's 11:45 and not 11:50 like we usually do, I'm going to take a break a little bit early today. All right. So we're going to pick it back up at 1 o'clock. So you can have a nice long lunch. Okay. And I apologize, but I got somebody coming over to my house right now, and it's going to take a little bit. So at 1 o'clock, we'll pick back up again. All right. So I'm going to pause this. And what I'll do is I'll go back to code. So the code that I put in so far, where is it? There it is, was that one. And then this one. So I'll leave that up there and I'll be back here in about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, depending. But at 1 o'clock, we'll start back up again and I will see you then. All right, hello again. I'm going to get started. I got a question for you. Do you all see on the screen, the gray screen that says Our Awesome Campers here? Can you see that?
No.
No. All right, then let me change my screen share. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. I mentioned this. I mentioned this the first day. If you're interested and you want to take a picture of yourselves or have your parents or whatever take a picture of you and send it to me, you can be immortalized because I build a very simple little one-page website at the end of each one of these where I put everybody in there. If I get your pictures, great. I'll put them out there like you can see I've done in the past. This was a year ago. If I don't, then I won't even say camera shy. I'll just do it like this. All right. But if you're interested, like I said, please do that. Now, I want to explain how the rest of the class is going to go. Today, we got 2 hours left. We're going to finish version 1 of the Brick Breaker game. All right. When we get done with that, we're going to go right into tomorrow, probably version 2 of the Brick Breaker game. My guess is that will take part of the morning. Then what we're going to try, and I've never tried this before, you guys are actually ahead of the group that I had last year with this class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write program requirements and I'm going to say, hey, make a program that does this. And I'm going to give you a few hours to work on it. And I want ideally, everyone's will be different, but I'll tell you what to do. And it'll all be stuff that we've already worked on. And then if you want, you can send it, you can send me the link, etc. And again, I can put these out there. If I had 10 or 12 of them, that would be great. And speaking of that, I'm going to change my share here.
Just a comment. I was able to add a game over screen in that implementation.
Good. Okay, great. Okay, so do you see on the screen right now a thing that says student evaluations? Do you now see a thing on the screen that says student evaluations for Scratch Programming Academy?
Yes.
Okay. Now the woman that you see right here, that's Barbara Bragg. Now you may not have dealt with her, but your parents probably did. She sets up all the summer courses. My guess is, now I have not been told this one way or the other, but my guess is, and my hope is, that when these academies are offered next summer, they'll be in the classroom. The reason I'm telling you that, because a lot of times people like to hear this stuff. Now, I've got another one of these going next week. I think it's filled already, but I'm teaching people to build websites. So I've got that one going next week. Now, there may be other ones, I don't know. The number that we have has been really scaled back because of COVID and doing these things online. But if next year it's back in the classroom again, especially for those of you who are from the St. Louis area, they always have a class where you end up, it's all about go-karts. And at the end, you guys have real go-kart races with real go-karts. It's kind of neat because I usually, if they have it during lunch, and I usually come out there on the last day and watch the kids in their go-kart races. So, so Barbara Bragg is the one who's in charge of all this. And you can read this yourselves. But again, tomorrow she's going to be sending you an evaluation form. When she says PDF, fillable PDF, you probably know what a PDF document is, okay? But it's basically, usually with most PDFs, you can't write to them. This one you can. And it's going to be in there for you to do an evaluation of the class and of me. All I ever ask of people is be honest. If you think, man, I hated this, then put that down. That's what you should do. You're paying for it, or somebody is paying for you to be here. And if you thought I did a bad job, put that down. You should always just be honest. All right. And as it says, please let them know to complete it and submit their forms. The way that this keeps going year after year is Ms. Bragg, Barbara Bragg here, she has to keep track of what's working and what's not working, because she gets a lot of funds from the federal government, I believe, to do a lot of this stuff. And that's what really keeps the cost down. So the more of you that fill out an evaluation form, regardless of what it says, and send it in, the better off we will all be. So again, if you would do that, I would be most appreciative. All right, so let's jump back in and let's see. Just wanted to mention one more thing. I mean, in my opinion, you should all be proud of yourselves, because we've already finished 6 programs and we got a jump onto a 7th one. We did the first day, we did the rainbow art, we did the coin flip, and we started to get into the guessing game. We finished the guessing game yesterday. We did the Magic 8 Ball yesterday, and we started the maze game yesterday. Today, we finished the maze game single player. We finished the maze game multiplayer. And now we're starting on the brick breaker. So the only thing I had prepared was just one more, and that's version 2. So again, we've got quite a bit of code to write here. And we're going to write that, and that's going to probably take the rest of the period to do this. And then tomorrow when you get here, we'll do this. We may have that done before the morning's even over. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to write requirements to have you create your own program, and then I'm going to give you time to work on it. And what'll happen is I'm going to keep this window open and I'll be here. But again, every 50 minutes, we'll take a 10-minute break, etc. And if you want to do it, fine. And if you don't want to, I mean, you're at your homes. I can't make you do anything. But, it'll give you a chance to try to do something on your own. And then we'll take a look at what people have done in the afternoon. And then I'm probably I've got something else I'm working on now for Friday. I don't want to get into it yet because I haven't finished it. All right. So just so you know, that's basically what I've got in mind then. All right. So with that said, I'm going to, your screen's going to look a little funky maybe for a second, but let's see. All right. All right, I did another share. We should be back. Can everyone see right now? Can you all see the program we've been working on, the brick breaker game?
Yes.
Okay. So what I've decided to do, the easiest part to do was the game over. All right. And as one person already said, they even did their own game over screen, which is totally cool. You don't have to do that. I'm not doing this with a screen, but we could have done it with a separate screen. There are a lot of things we could do. But when you look here, all we're doing again is when the game starts, we want to make sure that thing that says game over is hidden. When we receive a broadcast, meaning that when the system tells us, hey, our game's over, we want to show that game over thing, and then we stop all, which is going to quit. That's it. Now, we went over that before, and my hope is, and my guess is, everybody gets that. It's not like that's really difficult. All right. But I want to go over this one because we're not complete here. Again, when the program starts, as we already mentioned, when the program starts, we want to hide that. But there's actually more that we want to do. Because what are we doing? This is where we can start a brand new game. So I'm going to take this hide that's right here and I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to keep it. All right. I'm going to keep it, but okay, I'm not, for right now at least, I'm not going to have it in there. Instead, I'm going to go over to my variables and I don't have any yet. Well, I'm going to make one now. I might end up with more than these, but I'm going to make a variable right now. And I'm just going to call it score because that's going to be my current score. Okay, that's all I did was the score, and I'll leave it up there even. I may end up moving it, I may end up keeping it, it doesn't matter, but I'll do that. But what I want to do is when the game starts, I want to set score to 0. It's a brand new game. And can somebody tell me from what you've seen when we looked before at, hold on a sec. We looked before at this and you saw this run. All right. So how does a person win this game? Can somebody tell me? How do you know?
Breaking bricks.
Yeah, all the bricks are gone. Would that make sense? So in
Yes.
other words, our game should keep going. Our game should keep going until we got all the bricks knocked over. Does that make sense? Well,
Yes.
you already know we've got different kinds of loops in here. There's a few of them. All right. But one of them that we haven't really looked at is this one, a wait until. So if I wanted to come in there and say wait until, and I'm going to bring that equal thing, we used that the other day, and I'm going to say my new variable that I just added, score equal 28. So in other words, I'm saying when the game starts, a brand new game, set the score to 0, hide this thing that says you won, wait until the score is equal to 28, then, well, what's the opposite of hide? Show. So show yourself. And then again, I think this was under Brown, right down to the bottom rather. We can do a stop all. So that's the code you should have then for the you win. So I'm going to wait for a minute. And I'm going to let you put that in. And then I want to go over it again slowly because I want people to understand everything that's going on there. So again, if you were testing it right here, okay, I could change that. I showed you this before. I could just change this, for example, to 1 like that, run the program. Why it's not showing? What's going on here? Oh, I don't have the stuff to make it start yet. But the point is, when we hit just 1 now, it's going to come out. And the reason I'm telling you that, the reason that's important is, again, I just want to be able to test this, but yours should eventually say 28 right there. Okay, just so you're aware of that. Okay. Now, if I wanted to really test it and have it show, I could set it to 0. So notice how it says, wow, you win. All right. And I wouldn't even have to play. That would be kind of silly, but I'll just make it 1. All right. Does everybody understand what's happening here? This thing up here, that's the number of bricks that you've currently knocked over. So we set it to 0 because in a brand new game, you haven't knocked any bricks over yet. But since this is our you win, we hide it right away. Then we say, hey, once the score is equal to, again, it would be 28, then show that message and stop because the game's over. We could set this up where we ask the user if they want to play another game. You also could set this up if you wanted to, where perhaps maybe you use different stages. So when you get done with this, you move to stage 2. What does that mean? Well, we're going to have some control over what the ball does. Maybe you'd want to add, maybe you'd want to have less of the bricks, or you'd want the ball to move faster, or you want to shrink the size of the paddle. That's totally up to you as far as what you do with that. We're not going to go into that much complexity, but again, we could do that. There'd be absolutely no problem with doing that. So out of these 5 things, we've got everything we need now for our you win. All right, we've got everything we need now for our game over. There's quite a bit of code for the button, for the tennis ball, but there's not too much code for the paddle. So we're going to do the paddle next. And there's 3, 4, 5, about 6 or 7 lines. Again, we start out like we normally do with a when clicked. Again, I'm at the paddle here. So make sure you're putting this code for the paddle. All right. So when clicked, what do I want to do? Well, I'll show it to you. And let's see, I don't remember where it is. So give me a second here. I wish I had printed this out in color, and I did not. In fact, let me go over and I'll check it on the one that's already working. Okay, it's blue. Okay. What is over here? There should be a set rotation style over here. There it is. All right. What the rotation style is kind of what you think it would be. When we look right here, we can set it to left, right, don't rotate, or all around. Now, if it was left, right, you'd see some kind of squirrely things as it made its way across the screen. It would try to do some actual rotation. If we set all around, the paddle would move in a circle. That would probably make it the hardest to play the game when you think about it. So the one that we're going to want to choose right here is the only one I didn't mention, which is don't rotate. So we want to set the rotation style to don't rotate. We don't want that thing to move. All right. Then we want a forever loop. And in that loop, we've got 3 lines of code. The first thing is we want to make it point. I think that's again here. We want to make it point towards the mouse pointer. Let me just put all 3 lines in and then we'll go over them. We want to move 10 steps, and then we want to set Y to -140. Now, what I'm doing is the way I'm doing it. I'm not saying that what I'm putting in here is the only way of doing it. But what we're doing is we're telling the system, hey, when it starts, don't allow this thing to move any other way than just the way it would normally. All right, which is back and forth. That's this. Then we're telling it to always be pointing towards the top. And we're telling it to, every time we try to move it, we're telling it to move over 10 pixels. So we'll be able to slide it over ourselves. But we want to make sure, now this is another place you could change this if you wanted to, but when it starts and this ball starts coming down, I set that, I set that to negative 140, so it'll come down about here every time. So I know that at least when it starts, I should be able to hit it at least once. All right, so that's all we're doing right there. And literally, as far as I know, at least, that's pretty much it for the paddle. So we now have 3 of our 5 things done. We've got our you win, we've got our game over, and we've got our pedal. All right. There's probably about an equal amount, but I think there's a little less code in the tennis ball. So we'll do the tennis ball next. Okay. And then we're going to actually be able to start, hopefully at least start actually testing it. The problem is until we put the bricks in, it's not going to, really look right or anything. But I think we should do this next. So the first thing we want to do is we're not going to do first the when clicked. We're going to put a different event in there. And that is when I receive, where is it? Nope. Trying to remember if there is when I receive. I think we're going to have to make our own thing in here that says bounce, but I could be wrong. I wish I would hold on for a minute. Let me see if I do have any notes on this. Again, I'm trying to go off the top of my head, which isn't a smart thing to do. Well, I'm going to put in what I think it is, okay? And that is when I receive, we're going to put in there for right now. I might be wrong on this, but we're going to put a new message in there and we're going to put in the word bounce. We may have to change this later. I might be wrong in what I'm thinking here. So put in bounce and click OK. So it's when I receive bounce. Well, what we want to do is we want to make sure that every time this thing bounces, and there's 2 ways that it can bounce. It can either bounce after hitting a brick, or it possibly could hit over here on the side, or if there's a brick missing, it could hit up here. So what we want to do is we basically want to sit and play with it and make sure that it's kind of bouncing in a different direction. Not that it always hits here and then bounces there, or hits here and bounces there, or hits here and bounces there. We want to give it a little bit of where it may end up having some randomness to it. And we can do that without actually putting in anything random. All right. So we're going to point, we want to find here point in direction. I don't remember if that's looks or not. There it is. So point in direction. Now, by default, it says 90 degrees, which means it's always going to go. Remember that circle I showed you the first day? And it went 0, 90, 180, negative 90, negative 180. Well, if we leave it at 90, it's always going to be going and bouncing in the same direction. We don't want that. What we want here is we want to do some math. All right. And we haven't done the minus one yet, but we're going to right now. All right. And we want to say 180 right here, 180 minus the direction. But we have not created a variable yet for the direction. So let's do that. I believe that's supposed to be a variable. Let me again double check. I want to give you the right code. That's why I'm doing this. Oh, it's my position. Okay. Oh, that's a different one. There it is. All right, got it. Okay. So we're going to want to say 180 minus direction. And when we look down here under motion, I think it is, there's a direction right there. So we want to put that in. So point in direction 180 minus direction. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in a real small loop. All right. And we're going to say we want it to repeat. So we'll go to control and we'll find repeat until, and we want to repeat this until it's not touching the paddle. Remember, under here, we've got a thing that says not. There it is. All right. And if you remember from this morning when we were working, we were working with the maze, that up here, we've got a touching. But we want to make sure it's not touching the paddle. So repeat this as long as it's not touching the paddle. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to move 10 steps. Just keep going down. That's how it's going to be falling down, so to speak. So that's that. Now, again, that's what's going to happen whenever we receive a bounce. Okay. So again, whenever it starts to bounce, we just want to make sure that it doesn't hang there. We want it to start coming back down, but we want to make sure when it comes down, it doesn't always come down in the same position. So wherever it is, we take 180 minus that, and it'll come down in that position. And it'll keep falling until, as it says, while it's not touching the paddle. So it'll keep falling 10 pixels at a time until hopefully, and the paddle won't be able to do this, it'll only be able to go back and forth, but until literally it touches the paddle. All right, so that's one thing that we have to put in. Okay, my question is quick. Does everybody have this?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody?
Yes.
Anyone who's still putting this in? All right, then I'm going to move this down a little bit. And I'm going to, again, go to my controls, to my events. Now I'm going to do my when clicked. And actually, this isn't very hard, what we have to do here. It really and truly isn't. All right. Because when it's clicked, there's just a few things really that we want to do. All right. So first, we're going to put in one of our loops, forever loop. Now I'm going to move this down a little further because I don't want it to be in the way. So I might have to move it down again too. All right. So forever, I want to check the position of this. This is going to end up being around 150 up in the air. So the Y position, remember there's an X position and a Y position. Well, this is going to be basically at about 150. So when you look right there, what we want to make sure happens, I should say negative 150. It's going to be about right, about right there when the game starts. So I know if the ball is lower than that, I know I lost. Does that make sense to everybody?
Can you
I'll
repeat it?
Yes, I'm going to say it again. This thing is going to have a Y position of about 150. It'll be somewhere like in here, somewhere like that. Okay. If the ball gets lower than that position, it means that the ball got by and we missed it. Since the ball got by and we missed it, we lost the game. And since we lost the game, that's what we're going to be handling in here. So what we're going to say, we're going to put an if statement into here, not an if else, just an if. And we're going to say if that Y position, oh, not yet, I'll put it in there just a second. if that y position is less than that minus 150, well, we need this, and we need a less than. So if the y position is less than minus 150, well, what that means is the game's over because we let the ball get past the paddle. So how do we tell the system that the game's over? We put in a broadcast. All right. So we broadcast, and what do we broadcast? Remember this? Show game over. Now, I'll give you a second to put that in, and then we will go over all of it. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody who's still working on that? Okay, then let's continue on. Now, I've got to go back to here because what I discovered was a page of my notes is missing. So I've got to go and take a look on here. So this is the one we just did right there. And there's two more. I think we've done one of these and we haven't done the other one. So let me look. I think we did this one as well. Yes, we did. That's the one we just did. And this, I believe, is the one we did earlier. So we've got that done. And we've got this done. Good. All right. We haven't done this one. And unfortunately, that's missing from my notes. Now, can you see on your screen the when clicked? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
this is what we're going to have to put in, and I will also. Now think before you start putting it in, let's go over it. This is all of it right here. So this says go to X 0, 0. So this is telling the ball basically, I think, to like pretty much go in the middle and be pointing again to go down. Wait 3 seconds. And then this is doing everything that's telling the ball to move. All right. So if it's on the edge, we're telling it to bounce. And if it's touching the paddle, we're telling it to bounce. So in either one of those directions, either one of those ways, we're telling it to bounce. So if you would please put this down, and I'm going to have to put it into my code too. Like I said, I'm looking at my notes here and all of that's missing. It's 1:32. I'll give you a couple minutes. So about 1:34, I'll move over and I'll put that code on mine. All right, am I right in assuming everybody's got that code in? Anybody still working on it? All right, then I'm going to go back to my program here and I'm going to put that in. So I've got this in. This is one of the when clicked. This is the one I received bounce. All right. And now I want one more, the same thing I just had you put in. So this will be one more when clicked. All right, so I want to say when clicked. Then I want to go over to the blue motion and I want a go to X, Y, 0, 0. All right. Then we want control. We want to tell it to wait for 3 seconds. This is all stuff, and you probably already figured this out. You know, if the game is going too fast for you or too slow for you, you know, then you should go in and start changing some of these. Then we want a forever. And inside of that forever, we want the blue motion. Oops, blue motion. Move 10. Come on. Move 10 steps. Then if on edge, bounce. And then we want an if statement here. Just an if then. And we want to say if we're touching the paddle. We want to broadcast bounce. Now you can see our balls moving. All right, still got some work to do, but at least it's a start. So I want to take just a second and make sure that I believe no one has a problem with the code for the winning, the code for the game over, probably not even with the paddle. But I want to make sure you understand this tennis ball code before we go into the bricks, which is what we're going to do next. All right. So again, this when clicked puts us in a loop where we're going to constantly be checking to see if this ball has done the equivalent of this, where it's under right there, where the ball has, for lack of better words, the ball has made it under the paddle, which means the game's over. So that's what we're going to broadcast. When we broadcast that show game over, that's going to bring this. It's going to show our, whatever that said, sorry, game over. And it's going to stop the program. All right. Whenever it bounces, and I know right now it doesn't look like it's doing much, just give it a while. All right, so when it receives a bounce, we're telling it to go basic, you know, what to do. And we're going to tell it to keep bouncing as long as it's not touching the paddle. All right, then this last one is kind of getting everything set, for lack of better words. So it's setting the game up. It's waiting for 3 seconds. And again, if it's on the edge, we're telling it to bounce. If it's touching the paddle, we're telling it to bounce. Now, that's if it's touching the paddle, which means that it isn't to that negative 150 thing. Because if it's at that negative 150 thing, it means it's gone too far. And since it's gone too far, the game's over. All right. Now, I kind of went through that quickly, and I'm hoping that makes at least some sense to you. All right, so I'm going to do a file save now, and then I'm going to go over to the button 2, okay? And that is our brick. Now, we can call it button 2. It doesn't matter, but since it is a brick, I'm going to come in and call it brick. Now, one thing I have not mentioned, and it's not a big thing, but I want to mention it anyway. These sprites, notice I've got all of them starting in capital letters. It's not that big a thing. We could have started all of them in lowercase letters. I kept them in caps because remember the paddle and the tennis ball and originally button 2, those all started in capital letters. All right. So I tried to do it the same here. They put a space in their names here, tennis space ball. I didn't put a space in. In most programming languages that are out there, not Scratch, but in most programming languages that are out there, you cannot have a space in the names of things that you create like this. The program would blow up, which is just one of the reasons I don't do it. But since this is something the system created and not me, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I could click on here and I could type in tennis space without the space, and the program would still work fine. There'd be no difference. But what I'm getting to is when if you ever decide you're going to write your own program and you start doing things like, we've done a little bit in here with variables. We had that variable called score. Variables, when they typically start with a lowercase letter, regardless of how you do it, you may go to work for a company and they may say, we do it like this. And that's the way you do it. Or you may go to work for a company and you're the only person doing programming, so you do it any way you want. But you should do it in a standard way. So if you start doing it some way, so I'm not going to do this, but if I took all my variables and made the first 3 or 4 uppercase, starting with an uppercase S instead of lowercase, I should do that all the time then. I've always told my students that even a bad way of doing things, as long as you're consistently bad, is better than not doing anything at all. All right, not everybody agrees with that, but just so you've heard that. All right, so we're in the brick. And what we want to start doing now is we want to start building these 28 bricks. All right, so we'll get part of it done, then we're going to take our next break. It's 1:41, we're going to take a break at 1:50. I may have told you this before, and I'm not asking for any sympathy, but I've got a severe sinus infection, and that's why I'm drinking so much water. And whenever I run out, my voice starts to go. Okay, so that's why we're taking the breaks the way we are. So the first thing we want to do is come in here and do a when clicked. All right. And what we're going to do is, that brick is pretty big. It really and truly is. And what do I mean? Well, putting 28 of them here, look at how much room we have. We want 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. That would get us almost down to here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the size. We're going to take the size of our bricks and cut it in half. And guess what? You all know how to do that. So I'm going to go to blue. I'm going to find my set size. Isn't it under blue? I thought it was. It's purple. So set size to 50%. Okay. Now, it didn't change here because here it's still 100. If I want to see what it's going to do now, I can type in 50 there and hit enter. That's going to make it much easier when I have 28 of these. All right. You can adjust this any way you want. And I told you before also, we use this, but if you decide later that you'd rather go in and you'd rather use that one because it looks more like a brick, or you can go out, and I'm sure that if I did a Google search and I searched for a brick sprite, for example, you could find something that would probably look more like a brick than what we have. All right. So we're setting the size to begin with, the 50%. Then we're going to set a position. What position? I want this thing to start right up here. Why? Because I'm about to put a loop in there that's going to make this go 7 across, then go down, 7 across, then go down, 7 across, then go down, 7 across. So I'm about to make my 28 bricks. So the first thing I want to do is position this. Okay. So I'm going to do a go to, and I think that was in our blue. I want to go to XY, and I'm going to put -200, 140 here. and it didn't do anything. But notice if I come here and I change this to negative 200, 140, you see where it is now. I may decide later I don't even want this score here, or I just take it and drag it down here if I want to. That's totally fine. All right. But you see what I'm doing right now is I am positioning. So when the game starts, I am positioning my first brick, for lack of better words. Now, what's going to sound weird is now that I positioned it, I'm gonna tell it to hide. And I'll explain why in just a minute, okay? But I'm gonna come in here and get a purple hide. All right. And then we're gonna put in 2 repeats, a repeat inside of a repeat. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to do a repeat. And inside of there, I'm gonna put in another repeat. This is going to say 4, because that's gonna be for each row. This is going to be 7, because we're going to have 7 bricks in each one of our rows. Now, I'm hoping that when you heard that, it just makes sense to you. All right. Now, don't worry about the hide yet. It'll make more sense in a couple minutes. But what we're saying here is, okay, brick, 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 etc. So that'll be the 28 bricks that it'll be creating for us. All right. So it does this. This is the rows, and this is the number of bricks in each row. So the first thing we want to do, this is new. We're going to want to come down here into this orange, and we're going to want to create a clone of myself right there. And after we do that, we're going to want to change X by 65. So we move it over so we can put in the next brick. Come on. So I want to go over this one more time. And if it sounds like I'm going over too much, sorry, but I want to make sure people get what we're doing here. It's 1:47. I'm going to go over this, and then we're going to take a break until 2 and finish this up. All right. So when this starts, we set the brick to half its normal size. We position the brick so it's right here. And then we hide it. And then here we're making 28 copies of the brick. That's why we hide this one, because otherwise we'd have 29. All right. So we hide it, and now we're making 28 clones. So it starts where it is. It's going to make the brick, then it moves over 65 and it makes the next brick, and it moves over 65 and it makes the next brick. So this is going to handle 1 row of bricks. That's it. All right. So when we come back, we're going to go in here. So we're still inside of the repeat. This repeat, remember, this repeat right here, this is for each 7 bricks in a row. But we're going to want to put something down here that's not in here, but in here. All right. It is 1:49. We're going to take a break. I'm going to pick it up again right at 2 o'clock, and I'll see you then. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so we finished up with this change X here. Now what we want to do is we want to change Y, because X is having us go across, but once we finished a row, we want to go down so we can start doing the next row. All right, so what we want to do is 2 things right here, and they've got to go right in this little notch right there. So the first thing we want to do is we want to do a change Y. Make sure you put it so it is not inside of this first repeat. The inside repeat. Make sure it's by the outside repeat. So we want to change Y by -30, which is going to move it down. And then we want to set X to minus 200. So we're back at the beginning of the row. And I'm going to go over that again because you might find that confusing. So let's just look at the whole thing. This stuff isn't that important. This just says make the brick half the size it was. And this right here, this line says set it right there. Then we hide it because we're going to go into a loop to make 28 of these. So it's hidden, but we're still situated right here. So it says, okay, 4 times I want to repeat the stuff that's in here, these 3 lines. 4 times I want to repeat these. So I want you to make 7 bricks across by cloning the one that we just had and then moving over 65 pixels. So after we get done running this inside once, we'll have brick, 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 brick. Now we're at the end. All right, so that's going to put us, now we've done everything that's in here. So what's going to happen then is we're going to change Y by 30, which will move it down. So it's the equivalent of taking this and moving it down like that. All right. Then we're going to set X back to 200 because we were just right here. So again, in the inner loop, we made brick, 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 and we're right here. Then we tell it here to move down 30 and move back over to here. So we can make our second row of bricks. Now, hopefully, that was a good enough explanation. It sure wasn't great, but hopefully that was a good enough explanation that at least it made a little bit of sense. All right, because we really don't have that much more to do in here. We don't. All right, now that's all fine. And we've got our when clicked. This is done. So I'm just going to move this down. Does everybody have this? Does everybody have this?
Yes.
I'm still
Okay.
working on that.
All right. Let me know when you're done then. Do you have the top part here? Do you have this part done?
No, I really got.
I'll leave it right there. You tell me when to move it down and I'll move it down. Like I said, we really do not have much code to add here. And unless I'm missing something, and I'm hoping I'm not, all right, we'll be able to run this in about 10 minutes or so. Now, to tell you quickly how we're going to work on making our second version tomorrow. All right. One thing we're going to do is when we hit the ball with the paddle, when we hit the ball, when we hit the ball with the paddle, where is it? We are going to put some animation in. So we're going to make it look like the ball is kind of floating a little bit. Then we're going to add some music that's going to keep playing while the game's playing. And then we'll add some sounds so when the game starts and or when the game ends. All right. And there's a lot of modifications. There's a lot more that we could make other than what I've just mentioned to you. All right. There's a lot of stuff you can do. And if you want to do that, that'd be really neat. The last day of class, there's a pretty good chance what I'm going to ask you to do for at least part of the class is to go out, and we've done this before, and go out to the main Scratch page, see if there's a project out there or search for a project that you think is kind of neat, do a remix on it and make some changes. I will tell you that if you're going to do that, there's a lot of stuff about Scratch that I haven't taught you because there's just not enough time to go over it. So, I mean, you don't want to take anything that's real difficult. But you're going to, like I said, tomorrow, we're going to rate this second version. And then I'm going to give you some requirements for you to go and try to write your own program. And I'll give you the rest of the morning to work on that then. Then in the afternoon, we'll look at what I did. All right.
Excuse me. Can you
Yes.
scroll down? Did you
Yes,
add
I
any
can.
under the change x by minus?
Is that good?
Yeah, thank you. Set x to okay, got it.
Okay. So I'm going to move down a little further. And down here, I'm going to put another event in here. This is an event we have not used yet. All right. The event is going to be when I start as clone. And I'm looking for it. This was down here. There it is. When I start as clone. Okay. Well, first thing we want to do is right now, if we make those clones, they don't automatically appear on the screen until I tell them to show. So the first thing I'm going to do is tell them to show. All right. Then, as we've often done, we're going to come in here and we're going to put in a forever loop. All right. And now we have to check
Where did you find the when I start as clone block?
this one.
Yeah.
It's right. It's in our controls right near the bottom, right there. And then the show, then a forever. Now we have to check, because if we're touching the tennis ball if we are touching it with the paddle, okay, then basically we want to change our score by 1 because we're about to get a point. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in an if then, not an if then else, just an if then. Like I said, we only have about 6 or 7 more lines to go. All right, we did this before and we looked at touching. All right, if we're touching the tennis ball, we want to up our score by 1. So you know how to do that. We go to variables, we go to change, and we want to say change score by 1. All right. Plus, since we just hit it, all right, because there's not a whole lot of smarts in here. We just hit the brick. Since we just hit the brick, all right, since we just hit it, we added 1 to our score. But the next thing we want to do is we want to get rid of the brick we just hit. All right. So the first thing we do is we come in here and we go to events and we broadcast bounce. And then we delete the clone, just like that. Now, it's possible that I'm missing some code. I don't think I am, but it is possible. So let me try this. I'll leave this up there, but before we do, let me do a file, save now. All right, and let me run it and see what happens. All right, it's making our bricks. That's good. No, there's something missing because that's supposed to be coming down. I'll have to check my code. But you can see the ball's not behaving the way it's supposed to. So I'll fix that. I'll take a quick little mini break myself. But it made our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. It made our 4 rows with 7 each. So the only thing that's wrong is the way the ball is.
28 bricks. They made her 28 bricks.
Right, it made the 28 bricks, correct. Okay, so I'll put that code back up there. And while I've got that up there, while I've got that up there for a minute, I'll leave that right there. I'm going to go look in my bounce, in my ball, and see what I think I may have done wrong or left off. I don't know.
Have you finished coding the ball? Like,
that's what I'm wondering, is if I missed something. I'm looking through my notes now, but my notes, like I said, for some reason, there's a page missing from my notes. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing here, I'm doing it from the top of my head, which isn't a great thing.
Mine's working.
Yours is working. Okay, good.
My ball, when it goes like under the paddle, it won't, I don't know, like game over.
It doesn't do the game over. Okay. Well, what I'll do when we get done with this, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do this. Then I'm going to bring up the one that already works. And we're going to go through it, and you can compare and see if there's anything different in there as opposed to what I put in, or if there's something that I'm missing.
I'm actually was looking at it right now, and I can't find the code for I think it's the brick, one of the codes you did for the brick. I just couldn't find.
Okay, then maybe that's what it is. So I've got, for my brick, I've got what? Two code blocks, and are there 3 in here?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just didn't find it until now.
Well, I see 2 of them here. Is there another one? This is the working one. All right, I think I've got both of these.
I see it. I found it now.
Okay. But like I said, what I will do is start taking a quick look through my stuff, because I'm missing something. Not on purpose, but hey, I'm missing something. All right, we got to figure out what the heck that is. This is what we just did. And again, I'll say this one more time, and you'll probably hear it tomorrow. You'll probably hear it Friday. Please, when you get the evaluation forms, you should get those in an email from Barbara Bragg. Please fill them out, or have your parents fill them out, whatever you want to do, and send them back into her. And also, if you have any desire to have your picture on this little mini website that I'll build, just have somebody take your picture and email it to me. Make sure you put your name on it, because I mean, I've got a list of people in here, but I don't know what any of you look like. All right, so put your name in there. And if you want that, fine. And if you don't, I'll just have a thing in there that'll just say, have the names. If I don't get any pictures, that's okay. But what we will do between tomorrow and Friday is I'm going to give you the chance to work on some code, and anything that you want that you're particularly proud of. The gentleman before who said he made his own end screen and his own timer, if he wants, and you don't have to, but if he wants, he can share that and then send me the link up here. And then what I'll do is I'll take a picture of it and I'll put a link to it, and that'll become part of the website. What I'd love to do is would be to literally have 12 or 13, however many of you are in this class, have one for everybody. That's what I'd like to do.
Excuse me. I have a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to make puppet shows on Scratch? Like with Sprite and stuff?
With what? I would think so. I don't know how. I don't know how natural the movement would be, but one thing, just so you know, we've done a lot of like we've done a lot of like go to X, Y, where we move something on the screen, right? We've done a lot of stuff where we like this, where we say go to X, and boom, it just jumps right there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also something that you can use that's called glide, where it really nicely fades over. And when it glides, you can say how much time you wanted to spend gliding. You could probably use that, you know, to try to like make puppets look like they're moving up and down and whatever. I suppose you could. The other thing to do is to go back down, not into here, but go back to the home page, you know, and we can try it like this. Oh, spelled it wrong. Scratch puppets. Make your own puppet show.
Ah, okay.
So I mean that would be a place to start, I guess.
Okay.
Now, does everyone have all this code put in there?
Yes.
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 Anyone still working on it? Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the working copy here, and we're going to look at the same stuff to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I'm going to start with the you win. And that's pretty easy because that's just this. So you should all have that already. So make sure that that's what your you win looks like. Okay, then I'm going to move over to the game over. Get a little bigger. So we've got the when clicked hide, and when I receive the show game over, show and stop all. All right, so that is the first two that we did, the you win and the game over. Okay, so let's move over to the paddle. Now, I think this is the only one that's in there. And that's everything. So take a look and make sure that that's what your paddle looks like.
I copied that with the button. I'm talking about the button here. It will only show 7 buttons in a row. It won't show it like a bunch of them.
Okay. Then I'll tell you where that problem might be in just a second. Okay.
Oh, sorry if I skipped ahead.
No, that's okay. We'll look at it. It might be where you've got your code position, but we'll look in just a second. Okay, everybody has seen now the paddle, correct? So let's look at the ball. All right, we've got 1, 2, 3 things for the ball. So let's do this one first. This is the when I receive bounce.
Yes.
All right. So let's go down to the next one. This is that first when clicked. Now I think when I did the show game over, I didn't have spaces in there. That's not a big thing. If yours do not have spaces, that probably is still correct. Everybody have that one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Then we'll look for the last one. So that should be this one here, I believe. Right? Now I will look at my copy
Yes.
tonight. I will look at my copy tonight. And if I find any errors in mine, I'll fix them, hopefully. Otherwise, I'll give you a link to this one for tomorrow. All right. So everybody has this one too? That's everything in there. All right. Then the only thing that's left is the brick. So looks like we've got 2 things in there. So I'm going to move this one down, this one up, and make this one bigger.
Got that one.
And the person who said only one, the person who said a minute ago, only one row is showing, that'll be on the next one, the last one that we'll look at in just a minute. Does everybody have this one?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll look at the last one then. That's over here. Now, you have to make sure, again, this is more for the person who said, you've got to make sure this repeat that's in here, this repeat starts here, but it ends here. You want that change Y and the set Y, that has to be in this repeat, but outside of that one. And if you don't know what I mean, I'll say it again in a minute, but I want to make sure that you've got all the stuff up to the height is okay. Is that okay for everybody, these first 4 lines?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna get down to this. Okay, this repeat starts right here and it ends on the bottom. These 2 lines, the change Y by 30 and the set X to 200, those are outside of this repeat, but in the body of this repeat. So if you've got 2 of these, like orange notches down here, you've got these 2 lines in the wrong place.
Yeah, I fixed it. It wasn't that actually. I put an X instead of a Y.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, how many people have run it where it's worked? If you just say yes, if it did work.
Yes.
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 How many people ran it and it didn't work?
Me.
All right. Well, it's you and it's me. All right. So what I will do, all right, it's only 2:25, but I want to make sure that for tomorrow, I don't want us to start a new project until my copy of this one is fixed. So we're going to end a half an hour early just today. And I'm going to try to fix this. And I'm not even going to, I'm going to stop the taping, but I'm going to leave my machine on so you can see what I'm doing if you want to watch. And if you don't, that's totally fine. We will start up then again right before 9 o'clock tomorrow. And when we do, the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to have every one of you make a copy. So if yours works, you can do this right now. If yours works, you can do it right now. You will do a file. Not a new, well, what is it? There's a save as copy that should come out. We'll get it. All right, we'll do that tomorrow, but we want to make a copy of this one. All right. And just, I call this one Brick Breaker V1. Here's a surprise. The next one will be called Brick Breaker V2. In fact, that's not it. This is it here. So you will do a file, save as a copy. All right. You'll want to do that. And then you should give it the same name as the first one, but instead of V1, it'll be V2. Why? Because we want to make sure we've got our original here and that our working one, we've got a copy of that we can always go back to. All right. So again, you do have time now that if you do have any interest in either sending me your picture, you can do that. If you've got any interest in, if you've been writing your own programs on this and you want to make them shareable and send me a link, you can do that. All right. Otherwise, I will talk to the rest of you or all of you tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and I'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.